Joe has over 31 years working for Alcoa, and he started his career with an engineering background. As an engineer myself, I believe that there's a lot of pros and benefits associated with that. Joe has come into the Alcoa operation as an engineer. It's providing him means to be able to understand systems, understand machines, understand reliability and maintenance, at a very foundational level. And that background and experience has provided him means to be able to grow and be thrusted, if you will, into various leadership roles within the Alcoa operations over 31 years, to the point now that Joe has a significant passion for leadership and employee development. He's very much a people person, and he's got some amazing experiences that he's here to share with us. He's not only worked here out of the Warwick operations, but he's been contracted at over 31 different operations across the globe for Alcoa. Again, with the intent of sharing best practices and pouring into and developing people and sharing those best practices. I just think it's an absolute phenomenal character that the young man has, and very much looking forward to Joe's speech today and talk. Alcoa hasn't been without their challenges. Certainly, as for those of us that follow the industries, aluminum took a hit, more than 50% reduction in price in aluminum. That market dynamic created a situation where they had to close their smelter, and later, with a little bit of a resurgence and some other market dynamics, they reversed that decision, and now, of course, they're going through the restart, and that brings on hiring challenges as well as other challenges in the area of leadership transition. All kinds of challenges and experiences that Joe's going to be able to share with us today and help us share those best practices and pour into us to learn from those experiences. And what an honor, what an absolute honor for us to be here with Joe today and for Joe to be pouring into us and sharing those experiences. Please, with a round of applause, let's welcome Joe to the stage.
Here's Warwick operations. Obviously, the river is down when this picture was taken. I think this is the laser, this green one, right? Here's the river. There's the town of Newburgh Dam. This is the power plant, and this is the operations that my team and I are responsible for. Here's our smelter, and here's our fabricating operations. 1,500 people work there. This is our product mix, and this is not all about Alcoa. I'm just kind of setting the stage for you, okay? We were started operations in 1960, and we primarily make product for the packaging industry. Beer cans, soft drink cans, food cans, Spam cans. We should have had a parting gift of Spam, shouldn't we? That's an attendance prize, a lifetime supply of Spam. We sell coils of aluminum that go to a manufacturer. The aluminum bottle, that's something that we've actually developed. Alcoa designed that technology for aluminum bottle. Thank you very much. All right. The Coors Light, big, wide mouth, open bottle. I was with Coors last night. Fantastic. That's our product. We are capable of doing some auto body sheet and some brazing and some consumer electronics. Used to be at the back of like an iPhone was our material, the aluminum on the back there. So that's kind of what we do. It's been a wild ride. All these graphics, I picked them out. Again, that wasn't funny, Laura. All these, it's been a wild ride. The Great Recession, our metal was trading, aluminum is traded on the London Metal Exchange, just like corn, just like copper, silver, all those things. It's $3,300 a metric ton in October of 2008. It dropped to $1,450 a metric ton. So imagine your product almost overnight going for half. That's what happened to us. The company separation, one of the things that's, in vogue in industry is to separate companies into their commodity and engineered products. Alcoa is an old company, started in 1888, and we're a fully integrated operation where we own the mines, where we mine the bauxite, we own the refineries, These are all around the world. We own the smelters, we own the rolling mills, you know, and the whole thing. We had, you know, we make airplane wings, we make fasteners for airplanes, we make jet engines. We did everything, okay? Now, a couple years ago, well, it's probably been 3 years now, our board decided to split the company into the commodity business and the engineered products. With engineered products being things like, you know, aerospace, truck and trailer wheels, engineered products that people will pay a premium for. Commodities are things that are market driven, low cost. So our plant, I won't give you the long story. The short story was we were going to split our plant in two. We have an engineered products rolling mill, and then we had a smelter as part of the commodity. So we tried to split the baby. That didn't work out so well. We made the decision to shut down the smelter. You know, smelters have a finite life, and we're past that. But we're running it pretty dang well. But we decided to shut it down with those 1,450 metal prices. And then in July of 17, we decided to start back up, which number 5, there was massive job movement. We're a unionized facility, and whenever you shut down a smelter, we had roughly 600 jobs that left, and then we're starting it back up. So the 600, they left, and they bumped by seniority to all the other jobs. So we had about 1,300 other jobs. So basically, everybody changed jobs. Everybody stand up, take one chair to the right, change jobs. That's what happened to this company. And then when we decided to start it back up, you know, this is funny to talk about it, but it was painful to go through, right, Tim? You know, when we started decided to start back up, 374 jobs. Okay, so again, we hired a bunch of people, and everybody bumps around based on seniority. Typically, if you have one job opening in Alcoa, there's at least 3 moves. So we hired 374 people. Let's say 400, make my math easier. That's 1,200 people change jobs. That's a challenge. Okay. At the same time as all this is going on, our volume is up 20%. Great problem for us to have. A lot of rolling mills around the world and around the United States are shifting to auto body, like the F-150 truck. So the can sheet business is coming to us. We're turning away, Kate's turning away business every day. We're turning away business. So our volume's growing, everybody's changed jobs. Exciting place to be. You know, and at the same time, we're transitioning to a new generation of leaders. You know, when we were shut down the smelter, we offered quit packages. So people that wanted to volunteer to retire, we gave them a little incentive to do that. So at the same time as we're growing the business, everybody's changing jobs, let's take everybody with 30 years or more experience and get rid of it. That's the challenge Alcoa has faced in the last couple of years. Monumental challenges. This group, it was actually before my time. One of the things John didn't say, I just started in my current role as manufacturing director in September of last year. I was in my consulting job, my global consulting job before that. So these guys went through this change. Fantastic job, positioned us for what we're going to next. Okay, some lessons learned inside of that. You know, and these are some of the problems that we're going to solve in the subsequent slides. Feels like I break out every once in a while. I have to talk this way. You know, we have a great daily management system, but we actually overplayed it and it turned into a micromanagement system. We're going to talk about that in a second. You know, developing leaders. You know, we were so busy with all the change going on and all the projects of trying to run without a smelter. So, you know, the smelter made, you know, 271,000 metric tons of metal a year. Now we're going to have to buy that metal and bring it into the plant. Cold and melt it down. How are we going to do that? So we stopped. You know, stopped is a strong word, but it was definitely halted developing leaders. We focused on hard skills that people needed and not the soft skills. We're going to talk about that in a second. Thousands of years of tribal knowledge left. Thousands. Leader staffing and and technology and big data led to massive project lists for people and just overwhelmed you. You had so many things. We have less people. We're a commodity business. You know, where we had 10 people, we've got 7 now. So everybody's got more to do. How do we handle that? Do more with less, more, better, faster, work longer hours, you know, all those things. You know, the next one is, you know, nice kind of replaced debate and led to some silo thinking. You know, we're in a politically correct society. Nobody wants to offend anybody anymore. Nobody wants to argue and debate. I think that's a big problem. Sometimes my wife thinks I like to argue, just argue, you know. But hey, we're a commodity business. We need to be lean. We need to start acting like a commodity. We're not an engineered product, okay? The value of our product is dictated as the cost of it, what we can sell it for, is dictated to us as a commodity. All right, cool? Tim, how am I doing on time? What do you got? Good gosh, Tim, I asked you for one thing. What's easy? All right. So again, this is our journey, okay? And the mistake, I do not want you to make a mistake. It's just saying, hey, you know, this is the right path. Now, pick one of these things. You got to solve the problem at your plant. When I used to travel and consult with people on reliability and maintenance, I customized a roadmap for them. Each plant has its unique culture, unique people, unique equipment, unique, you know, market. What's the right thing for them? These are tools to go in your toolbox. You got to decide when to pull them out. When to use a hammer, when to use a saw, right? All right. Okay. Get ready to get your pencils out, you know. This is the exciting part. Everybody excited?
Yeah.
Where's Mike? You excited, Mike?
Yeah, I'm this Mike?
Yeah.
I'm really excited, Joe.
I'm really excited?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. Don't fall out. Okay. Alcoa is going to be successful based on our people. You know, our technology, most of it's old. You know, we do spend about $35 million a year on capital improvements, you know, replacing roofs and cranes and fork trucks, but the vast majority of our processes were installed in the 70s. We're not the greatest technology out there. You know, it would cost you a couple $2 billion to rebuild our plant. We're not going to put a couple $2 billion into a commodity process. We're not going to do it. But we can make great decisions. We can have leadership and a culture to be outstanding, to allow the people to be great. You know, one of the things I was thinking about when I was driving out here is another talk that I heard, and is, you know, it said, you know, I don't remember the exact numbers, but you'll get the point here, is, you know, there was a study done looking at parents that work excessive hours and the impact on their family. Their kids. By parents working till 6:30. I make these guys work till 7. That was... There you go. All right. And the impact was negligible. No impact. But the impact of parents coming home from jobs they hated was dramatic. So think about all the things going on in society today, all the things going on with teenagers and all the stuff on social media, all the issues we have in some of our high schools and even grade schools, and how much of that is related back to parents coming home and the impact they're having on their family and their values and the respect they have for people. How much of that is our responsibility to fix? Anyway, thought I'd offer that out there. It puts an enormous responsibility. If you're a leader, you got a lot of responsibility. A lot. And it's not only to make money for the company, it's for your community. You know, Alcoa is the second largest employer in Warwick County. You know, our revenue is $1.4 billion. And that all gets injected into the community. We're a huge part of it, but we also have a people aspect that we need to be aware of. All right? So, the next slides are all going to tie into this. It's important you know this. You know, it's our people and our decisions that's going to make us successful. And I depend, push, challenge, kick, shove our leaders to be great, because that's how we're going to be successful. Okay? All right, Tim, how am I doing on time?
You're about 5 minutes. You're in the 5 minute window.
All right. All right. This one, Tim's going to get him to talk now. This is time. You pick up your microphone, Tim. Walk up. All right. This one, I really like this one. This is called being too busy. And is there anybody here that needs more work? Needs more work in their daily life? Right? Kyle? You need more work in your daily life. All right, no. Hey, I call this one getting a C, okay? And, you know, we all got our to-do list, right? And, you know, if I had an easel over here, didn't I ask for an easel, Dave? Where's David? You know, but don't have it. Dave, disappointment number 1. We all got our to-do list, right? And you sit down with your boss and say, here are my priorities. You know, here's your 1, 2, 3 priorities. Here's my 50 things on your project list. And all's well and good. Nobody ever changes your priority list, right? You know, until the person who's your item number 47 is their number 1, right? And so then that changes. So you constantly get challenged. I can't, you know, I turn in on 66. I turn into the plant, and I have an idea what I'm going to do that day. I got my list worked out, and it lasts all the way till about 7 o'clock, you know, in the morning. And then it changes. You have other people interjecting their agendas, and being a big company, Alcoa, we got corporate that, you know, I'm from Knoxville, here to help. I'm from Pittsburgh, here to help. And they have their ideas on how to make us better and their agendas. So how do you manage all that? How do you, you know, it's a massive workload. I said at Alcoa, we're leaner, we have less people, we've lost a lot of knowledge, priorities are changing. How do we manage it? Okay.
You guys are all familiar with this, right? So we, for a long time, and as Joe talked about, we've continued to reduce our resources and try to do more with little, right? We were wearing our organization out. I mean, we had initiatives coming down constantly that would continue. We'd just be constantly changing directions with our people, and they thought we were crazy as leaders, right? But these were things that were being dictated, all right? So this getting a C, the example that I want to use here is we just had one of these recently come down, and again, a lot these ideas I'm talking about that come down, a lot of them are very, very good ideas. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't have a lot of merit. It's just you can't resource everything, right? So the example I'd like to use here is we just had recently, one of our groups decided that all of the plants were going to start using mobile technology with iPads and deploying it to the floor and having our operators and our maintenance folks use wireless systems to be able to connect to networks and be able to pull up work orders on the floor and do things with that, all right? Well, I mean, that's a great idea. You know, I love it. And if I could wave a wand and have it completed, it would be great, right? Well, Joe and I talked about this one, and we looked at this and we said, hey, what's the value in this for us versus our other 18 priorities right now? And, you know, I chose to take a C on it. Okay, now, I'm not saying we're not doing it, because we are doing it, but we're not doing it with the same vigor and resource requirements that we're doing many of our other, the higher priority items, okay? You see, what's my A? My A is spending time on the floor, talking to operators, and developing the leaders that are out there every day making the product. You know, and you say, hey, you're taking a risk there with your upper management. But I think at the end of the day, if we're able to produce more revenue and have a more successful plant, be safer, and develop leaders, I think that we're taking a risk, but we feel like it's a good risk to take a C on this particular item and get an A on the others. So don't be afraid to say, yeah, it's okay to get a C on something. Because we were trying to get an A on every single thing, and we weren't getting an A on anything, to be honest with you. Because you have limited resources.
Great example, Tim. And what I'd like for you to reflect on as a level 1, level 2, or level 3 leader is some new language. Can I get a C on that? You know, when Tim came to me, and that's actually what he said. He said, hey, this corporate initiative came down. You know, typically what we would do is we'd form a team, and we'd have him look at how we would apply this. We would invest probably 100 man-hours into responding to this request and talking about how we were going to organize around this on something that we didn't think was a high priority. So Tim comes to me, he got this request and says, Joe, can I get a C on this? So what Tim did is, instead of investing 100 man-hours in this, now that was a small team, Tim invested 1. He invested 1 hour. Okay? Pretty cool. So think about you and your job establishing a language with your supervisor and say, hey, can I get a C on this? You know, because that C is much less of an investment. I'll give my C, and this one, I can't imagine this not being a problem for you guys, is email. Everybody fights email. Okay? I could sit in my office 10 hours a day. Actually, no, I like my old boss. 12 hours a day, which a day is 24 hours long, so a half day is 12 hours, is what he used to tell me. Lord, that's supposed to be fun. Yeah. Who can stay in their office for 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever hours you work, and read email? All the corporate communication, all the responses, all the charts, all the websites. Who can do that their whole day, every day? I can do it easily. Easily do that. But you prove every day what's important to you by where you spend your time. Tim said, hey, he's going to take that time that he would have invested in a corporate initiative that he thought was a C. He's going to go out in the operator booth. He's going to walk around with his, second level supervisor, help them see the business as he sees it, develop them, coach them. My A is the same as Tim's. I have Tuesday mornings. I've got a lot of places I could spend my time. I've got 1,550 bosses. That give me a performance review almost daily. I spend 4 hours every Tuesday out on the shop floor in operators booths. Try to stand in one spot. We're going to hear more about that in a little bit, and observe real waste. What's going on? 4 hours. So how many people in this room spend 4 hours a week watching the process? Standing there watching the process. Every Al Cohen's hand should be up over there. 4 hours. You prove every day where it's important to you by where you spend your time. At the end of the year, on your performance objectives, who has on there, I'm going to read all my email and respond within 30 minutes? Who thinks that's going to be fundamental to your success as a plant? To be really good at email. My staff knows I'm pretty bad at email. I usually catch up, but if you want, you can send me an email today. Most likely by Saturday, I'll be able to give you a response. We use texting, we use phones, things like that, but email is something I'm choosing to not do a good job on. So that's, to me, is leadership habit number 1 that what I wanted you to understand is this getting a C. You're doing it anyway. You only have so much time in your week. And if you're reading email, if you're focused on directives that you don't think add value, if you're a frontline supervisor and you're in the office doing paperwork instead of sitting out there and talking with your new employee around a quality problem, around a waste problem, a speed problem, if you're not out there on the shop floor as a frontline supervisor, 50% of your day, you're doing it wrong. You're not spending your time where it's important. Cool? I was expecting a standing ovation on this one. So. Yeah, there you go. All right. Time, span, and control. Okay, this is another language, a couple words I'd like for you to capture. Kate's going to be giving an example of this one. You know, everyone must work in the right time zone. First bullet up there is managerial courage. If you're a level 3 supervisor, level 2 supervisor, level 1 supervisor, how did you get there? It's because you knew the last job, right? I hired on as an engineer. Guess what? I really like telling, 31 years later, like telling every engineer, here's what I do. Here's how you solve that problem. I was trained for that job. I went to school 4 years to learn how to be an engineer. I co-opted GE Plastics. I know how to be an engineer. You know, so I learned that for 4 years. We hire an operator in the coal mill. It's 12 weeks of training to become an operator. Do you know what the extensive, massive training program is if you're running the whole operation? Guess how long that training program is? Welcome to the job. No lie. So it's human nature to what my boss calls cone dip. You know, take the pyramid and do this to it. It's human nature for a boss, a first level, second level, third level supervisor to just, let me show you how it's done, Joe. This is what you need to do. Okay? Instead of letting Joe make the decision, own the problem, maybe even fail. Joe's probably going to fail. But funny. Gosh, man, I shouldn't.
I'm getting to see in that.
Yeah. You know, if you've watched Shrek, have you ever watched Shrek? They had a guy over here on the side that would hold up a sign that said laugh. I just watched that this weekend. By myself, not with my kids. So, see? Yeah, you guys can get there. But hey, watch working at the wrong level. It's happened. It's human nature. You're going to be drawn in. You know, 20 years ago, this is how we used to do it. You need to do it this way. Now, what happens when I'm working as an engineer? I'm not working at my level. What's my level supposed to be? Should I be working on what's happening today at Alcoa? Good gosh, that's a scary thought. Working on the coil, on all the processes, all 1,500 people, should I be worried about exactly what they're doing today and giving them direction and making the decisions for them? You've got to be working in the right time zone. We were good at that last job. You as a leader need to stop doing that job. Treat them like your children. You know, hey, when they're 3 years old, you tell them what to do. When they're 13 years old, you start giving them a little rope. You know, when they're 28 years old, you kind of let them make some mistakes. When they ask for advice, you give it to them. You've got to do that with your people and stop operating at the lowest level that you were great at. Leaders have self-doubts because they don't have any training in their role, so they love it. It's an adrenaline rush. Okay? Kate?
Everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, good morning. So one of the things Joe's talked a lot about, the transition that we moved through, and one of the key things for us is the company separation. So we traditionally reported up through the engineered products, and everything was very regimented. As Tim mentioned, we had a lot of corporate initiatives, all very well intentioned, and one of them was a very structured daily management process. So we had, it was mandated and audited who attended, what metrics we covered, the process. It was all very well scripted. The expectations were very clear. But as we moved into the new organization or the new culture after separation, one of the things as a lead team we started to evaluate is time span of control. Joe challenged us, hey, as third line supervisors, you shouldn't be focused on what's happening today. You should be focused on the next 3 to 18 months. And we quickly reflected as a group and realized that our daily management process was really forcing us into not just today, but yesterday. And it cascaded through the whole organization. Our crew leaders would spend the last 45 minutes of their shift not wrapping up, not checking on what happened on the shift, not on the floor with the operators, but in their office, typing long emails explaining what they saw, why they did what they did, all to arm their supervisor, the second level superintendent, to be able to explain the decision making on that shift. The superintendent would spend their first 45 minutes coming in, looking at every pound of scrap, every minute of downtime, every rework, to understand in detail the decision-making that led to whatever happened that affected the last 24 hours. They then would move to a department level daily management to arm the area manager with those same details but for a larger area. So the department manager spends their first hour and a half getting ready to go to a plant-wide 9 o'clock daily management meeting where they'd spend 15 minutes writing all of this information in very good detail on whiteboards, and then spend the next 30 to 40 minutes reporting that out and talking about plant-wide issues. Right, so it's 10 o'clock before, and all we've done is talked about what happened yesterday. So the frontline supervisor, the second level supervisor, the superintendent, and the manager, they're all just waiting for this plant-wide come together. What are the issues that we're seeing that are plant-wide, all to be cascaded back down, so that by 10:30 or 11, there's a decision from on high that comes down and says, okay, here's how we're going to handle this issue. So as you think about what's keeping the second level supervisor, the third level supervisor from focusing on their appropriate time span of control, you know, for a third level supervisor, a lead team member, 3 to 18 months is the focus, but we've just spent the first 4 hours of our day talking about yesterday, not even about today or tomorrow. So really understood that we had to make an immediate change to that process. Very well intentioned. You know, we want to align on metrics, we want to align on what's important to the business and how we're progressing, but we had to make a change because we were keeping our managers from being able to do the job that they were hired to do, which is lead the organization. So what we do, we took the daily management and made a couple key changes. One, the first one is who attends daily management. So if we really don't want the front or the third level supervisors, the managers, in yesterday, today, and tomorrow's details, get them out of daily management. That's not the right level. That's not where they should be engaging in what's happening on the manufacturing floor. So move the daily management to the superintendent level, so kind of next level down. So there's two benefits. As I mentioned, it gives the managers an opportunity to focus their day, start their day with, as Joe said, you come in the morning and you know what you want to work on, but you can get caught up very easily in what happened yesterday. This is a way to keep the managers out of that whole conversation. Let them focus on more strategic items. The second benefit is that the superintendents now have a fuller view of the plan. So in the previous, the way we were doing it, the superintendents know very clearly what's going on for them, and their connection to what's going on with the rest of the organization or what's going on with the business as a whole really only came back through one conduit, and that was their manager after daily management at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in each day. So giving the superintendents a fuller picture of the business, let them make better decisions on their own because they understood the impacts or what was going on that was either impacting them or how they were impacting the rest of the business. So talking about developing leaders for their next step, it was a chance for them to come and hear what's going on in the rest of the plan. The other thing that we did is got it out of the morning. So if we want to stop talking about yesterday, we want the areas to be able to problem solve that, own that in the area. Instead of daily management happening at 9 o'clock and being the first thing that we do in the morning, we've moved it to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So the superintendents are still coming together, we're still talking about plant-wide issues, but we're letting everybody stay in the area and get everybody kind of moving toward a plan of action to deal with yesterday before we come together as a plant to pull people out of their area of responsibility. So it also keeps us from talking so much about yesterday. By 1 o'clock, everybody knows how we're responding to yesterday. We're really talking about tomorrow and the next day. And that's where you get the superintendents focusing on, 3 days to next week to the next 3 months. It's really trying to get everybody focused on the right time. Okay.
When Kate's using her hands, sometimes her microphone gets away from her.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember, remember I started September 1 when I couldn't stand this meeting. And I looked over at Kate and said, hey, Kate, I'd like for you to lead this. It's not coming from a plant manager. And she just smiled and says, really? I can do it. That was just cool. I can remember her face when I said that. This wasn't easy. Kate made it sound simple. Hey, we just made a decision. All the managers at this table over here were all shaking, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to know what's going on? What's going on in the day? And I said, why do you need to know? Well, in case somebody asks. Well, I'm not going to ask. What's the next problem? And it was just, it was a culture change. And I still remember, I won't point out Ken Hall over here. I won't mention his name. But I remember Ken, he told me he has 4 hours a day freed up now. A day. Think about that as a culture change. You're going to say, hey, we're going to get out of our systems that is, daily management systems. I'm sure some of you people have, and you got little boards, what's red, what's green, that's old stuff. But we overplayed it, and we used it as an extreme micromanagement tool on steroids. And it allowed everybody to cone dip. And it allowed everybody to go down and micromanage people. And we were making a lot of the wrong decisions. Because if you're down there, you're the frontline supervisor, you know all the details. And whenever you communicated to the second level supervisor, you think that communication's 100%? Some details get left out, unintentionally, intentionally. Some details, right? So who in the organization knows the right decision to make for the next hour, 2 hours, 4 hours of operation, next shift? Frontline supervisor. Let them do their job. Second level supervisor, your time span of control is out, 1 week, 2 months, 3 months, even up to a year. A lot of overlap in these. Third level supervisor, you shouldn't be working on making scrap decisions or winning outages, moving this crew around. Who cares? But we had a culture of, and I remember this, this event happened to me, is my boss, the VP, he called me. Somehow he figured out it was in Ken's area, it was in Fab Products. He said, the coating lines, they didn't make par yesterday. Par was their average production. He said, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't have any idea. And then he kind of had this tone of disappointment. And I said, if it was a big deal, Ken would have called me. And he said, don't you think you ought to go out there and see what's going on? And I said, well, literally, this is the conversation. I said, I've got a frontline production supervisor out there. I've got a frontline maintenance supervisor out there. I've got the superintendent out there and the manager out there. So are you saying a fifth level of leadership will make the difference? He goes, never mind. So you have to coach up a little bit on this too. Boss, do you want me knowing when they've been down for an hour or two? That's not my job. I'm not trying to be lazy, but if I'm not working on the strategic changes at our plant, if I'm not working on them, who is? And look at this change, and this is the reflection moment for you. Do you operate in the right time span of control? Do you manage up and down for that time span of control? You're probably going to have to start managing up first. Say, I got it. Let me handle this time zone. And what it does is it frees up people. This is big at Alcoa, very big. My lead team has, several hours a day. What's it worth to have somebody with 30 years of experience that knows every job out there to have a free 4 hours a day to think how they want to steer the ship? What's that worth? You think that's going to be a positive or a negative? Lori, what do you think?
I'm going to go with positive.
Lori votes positive. Okay. Cool? Got that one? All right. Think about how you can apply that. Next one. This is Pam. She's going to start off with this.
So we're going to do this one just the opposite. I'm going to talk about the concept, and then Joe's going to give a personal example that he has. So when we think about nudging, we're talking about nudging future leaders. This is about identifying individuals who you see that spark in talent. They naturally draw their peers into a positive momentum. They make good decisions. They communicate well. they might be in a role where they're an individual contributor, they're maybe fairly new in their career, maybe fairly new in the organization, and they don't have that spark in them that says, here's my next destination in my career or my next role. So how do we spark that in them? How do we have those conversations? And it may be a series of conversations or building conversations that say, I see this in you, you should consider this in the future. Maybe it's we provide them opportunities to job shadow someone else or be a relief supervisor, have that floor experience as the first line supervisor. How do we draw their interest? Maybe it's we have a good conversation about what does the compensation package look like at that next level or at the third line leader level. Making sure that they understand what the role content is, what makes them successful, what things can they be working on now as far as skill development, to build them to that next leader. But it doesn't always happen in individuals without a little nudge. So that's where we use the concept of nudging, kind of appropriately in the picture there, is finding those individuals who have it in them and guiding them that way. Then they come around to, I can do this and I want to do this. They prepare themselves to be the ready candidate when that position comes open in the future.
So a couple points there. You can't have your leadership pipeline be a monster, right? And in our internet world, it's easy to apply for jobs. Hey, if somebody wants to be a first level or second level, third level supervisor, hey, they need to apply online. Yeehaw, right? Not very exciting and motivational. I added a JFK quote I love there. Things don't happen, people make them happen. Just kind of put that in there. Leaders make other leaders. My example there, I've had 14 jobs at Alcoa, 31 years, so some of you are doing the math and saying, well, obviously Joe can't keep a job very long. You saw my resume with 14 different jobs, you probably say, this guy's got problems. Red flags going up everywhere. Lori wouldn't even bring me in on the candidate list over there. 14 jobs, 11 of those, somebody told me they needed me. 11 of them. 3 of them, I actively pushed for. We've got to nudge people. It's your job as a leader, a first level supervisor. If you see somebody that can be a team leader, that's an operator, your job is to nudge them and tell them, put your arm around them if that's okay, and say, you can do this job. And give them a path to success. Here's how I'm going to help you be successful. And if you're not successful, hey, how about we call this an interim job? We're going to make you a team leader for a 90-day interim. And if you like it, it's yours. If you don't like it, you'll go back. Nobody will say anything. No big deal. Okay? How, you got to customize that. But how can you nudge somebody? Because I don't think it's natural for somebody to stand up and say, hey, I want to lead. Make sense? Good one? All right, nudging. I'm throwing out some terms for you. Time span of control, getting to see, nudging. I really like this one. This one is very disappointing in most plants. Very disappointing that we're taking a passive role. And these are all connected. I'm so busy doing my email, I don't have any time to develop people. Well, that is crazy. People in this room, you got to be better than that. You got to be better than that. Where do you spend your time developing people? Nudging. You should be spending, if you're a third level supervisor, you should be spending, there shouldn't be a week go by that you don't nudge somebody and tell them you think they're different. You think they're special. They got a gift. Genuine. You need to be genuine. But nudging, it happens by nudging. This nudging, leaders don't just happen. You make them happen. I think people naturally have a gift. They're blessed with a gift. But you have to make it happen. Help them become the best version of themselves, right? Matthew Kelly said that. Leadership on purpose. This is a massive topic. We're going to give you the tip of the iceberg here. I talked about nudging leaders in the last slide. This one is around how do you develop them? How are you going to get them into that job and make them be successful? Allow them to be successful. Late last year, we created Alcoa University. For some reasons, we do have a basketball team too. That I'm the player coach and marketing guy on the basketball team. So let me know if you want to join that. We have 80 classes and 19 schools in the university. We just completely designed this just like a university. Okay, Lori's going to go into some details on that. 80% of that training is soft skill training. How to develop a team, how to coach an individual, how to give a performance review, leadership habits, right? All soft skills. How to drive change in a union environment. Every one of the classes are taught by a leader at Alcoa. Every one of them. Okay? But what happens when you do that? One, say Jane is somebody that I nudged, to be a leader. They're now a second level leader. 80 classes taught by maybe 30 different people at our site. Number one, they get individual development. They get I teach a class, I teach several of them, but maybe 5 of them. I teach a class on fatality prevention. It's a one-on-one class. One-on-one. We're going to walk the floor. We're going to talk about some of the fatalities that have happened in Alcoa and what's the role of a leader, the personal role of a leader in that, at Alcoa. I'm going to talk to them about going to the hospital and talking to families and what that's like and the decisions that you make that lead to a safe work environment and the passion you need to have for safety. I'm going to do that one-on-one. Okay? There's other classes, a whole bunch of other classes. It's 79 other classes around that. So the person is going to get individual development. Okay? Cool, right? But what else happens? I get better on a topic. One of my managers has communication. How to communicate with your team. When's it right to use email? When's it right to be a one-on-one? What's right in a group? What's right to debate? What's that person's experience? Okay? So you create some subject matter experts. I may assign, Sherry to something. Now, Sherry's probably a bad example because she is really talented at this. But, Sherry, I may assign her, communication. Well, she better sharpen her skills, right? Because I've got to teach it. Not all of the people that are the professors of these classes are subject matter experts right now, but they're going to get there pretty quick. Most of them are, but some of them aren't. Then that person automatically gets a network. So this Carol that we promoted to a second level supervisor is going to get developed. She's going to sit down with her supervisor and have a menu of 80 classes. 80 classes that her and her boss agreed to. What makes sense? She's going to help develop the person taking the classes, the SME. And also that Carol is going to get an instant network with people. They're going to be comfortable coming to my office and talking to Joe because I've taught her 5 classes. She knows me. She can pick up the phone. She can text me. Won't send an email. I won't read it. Fun. Oh, you're losing, gang. All right. So, your job in Alcoa Leadership, we're trying to clear the paths, show the steps. Hey, if they fail, what's failure look like? Hey, if somebody fails, we select somebody, we nudge them, that we got a training package for them. It's not just dependent on their direct supervisor, but the entire leadership group of work operations is here for your success. And you now have that network. Higher probability of success? Yeah. Okay. Here's where I put that in. Develop your leaders 30%, 50%. Already talked about that. Lori, why don't you talk?
Absolutely, thanks. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of Alcoa University. As Joe mentioned, there's roughly 19 different schools and roughly 80 different courses that we are providing. And obviously it is all of our leadership team that are presenting those courses. So here is an example of leadership. This is what the leadership school looks like. It's going to include things such as people development, change management, union relations, improving performance. So it's not just for those individuals taking the courses, but it's also making sure that we're developing those that are providing them. You can see that there's a variation as far as time, commitment for each course, as well as the frequency per year, as well as the number of individuals that will take it. So we started this process with our superintendents and our area coordinators. And our hope is during our third quarter and fourth quarter, we're going to create something for our technical community and continue to expand on that. So as I mentioned, leadership school is the one right behind me. How many of you have attended a leadership class before? Pretty much all of you. How many of you are great leaders because you attended that course? Exactly. One of the things that we want to make sure is that this isn't just a check-the-box training course that we're having people go through. We want to make sure that there's some real skills that are developed and something that these individuals can use from here on out. So as a result, we've created competencies. So if you'll get to the next slide, thanks, Joe. So the competencies for each of those 80 courses are as follows. So an individual coming in may have no experience with the topic or may have a little bit of knowledge, at least been introduced to it. They'll be considered red. The next is a novice. Maybe they've had that formal training, you've attended that one leadership class, but you have limited results using it. They have proficient, where they've attended professional training. They've also demonstrate at least 5 examples demonstrating those behaviors, or they're a subject matter expert. And they're recognized as the expert at the plant, can mentor and teach others on it. So what we're going to do in this for Alcoa University is the employee will meet with their supervisor, and they'll say, okay, of these 80 courses, what's important for my role? Where do I need to be on each of these? Do I need to be a subject matter expert, or is it, hey, I just need to take the class, check the box, and understand what the topic is about? So the manager and the employee will work through that, determine of those 80 courses what's important. Then, as the individual takes the courses, if they need to be a proficient or subject matter expert, the slide that I showed you before is just the beginning. That's that first level of course. Then they're going to have to say, okay, what's the next level? So I've taken 2 hours on communication, but how do I show and demonstrate that I'm truly a good communicator? So there will be follow-up. There are going to be the one-on-ones, the personalized tours where you're going out and having those discussions. There's going to be homework, things of that nature in order to get you to that next step. So that's a quick overview of Alcoa University and what we're doing to try to help develop and mentor our next group of leaders. Any questions? Everybody gonna laugh since apparently I'm the laugh person? Thank you.
You know, I love this one. We just showed the leadership school. This is a leadership conference. We have one on environmental, we got one on safety, we got one human relations, there's a communications department. It's really trying to, you know, create a menu. You don't need to, when you go to college, you don't get a major in everything. And like Lori said, some people, they're gonna sit down with their boss and say, hey, it's good to be red on these 20, but I need you to be yellow on these 3 by the end of the year, and I want you to be green, which means proficiency. I hate training just for training. How many times have you gone to maybe even a week-long training class, and you come back all highly pumped and motivated, and then Monday comes, and then you're off to the races, and reality hits, and things all change. These classes are designed actually to be pretty short, so people can get, it's hard to get people away from it for 8 hours, but how about 2 hours? And then you establish a relationship with that subject, with that professor, and then that professor, you have to convince them that you demonstrated this 5 times. Outstanding. And you know, imagine you're an individual contributor to Alcoa, and somebody lays out, is nudging you, pushing you to be a first level, second level, third level leader. And then you lay out this training package in front of them to be successful. Higher probability of success, lower, right? Higher, right? Great. You know, this is actually a retention tool as well. You know, people work for money, but they also in the daily struggle, you're working because you're becoming a better and better version of yourself and as a leader, right? People love to learn and grow and be part of something big. This allows us to do this. Now, one of the things I love, I want to take I don't think this is a quote from Sherry, but she reminds me of it all the time. She said, you know, if we put people through all this training, they're going to be very marketable and they may leave. And then Sherry goes, well, what if we don't train them and they stay? Well, that may be worse. So yeah, we hope we're going to get some great leaders out of this, but we recognize some people are going to leave if they, you know, have a better opportunity, better for their family, whatever. You know, that's okay. But we're going to put together a great training package. And for engineers, same thing goes for engineering. You know, why don't we have when an engineer comes to Alcoa, why don't we have a menu of things that they can be exposed to, whether it's condition monitoring, whether it's capital projects, you know, how to work with maintenance, all those kind of things, soft skills and hard skills, to help them be a better engineer.
Most of you probably know about this chalk circle. So chalk circle is pretty famous. It's called Patch Ono's chalk circle. And Patch Ono is one of the main drivers behind Toyota production system, also called the lean manufacturing system. So his famous method, one of the famous methods was chalk circle. So in the area of interest on shop floor, he will draw a chalk circle on the floor. And a disciple with a problem in the interest area need to solve the problem, he put that person into the circle. So the instruction is quite simple. He will say, watch. So watch, he did. So after a while, Ono will come and ask this disciple, what did you see? If the answer is unsatisfactory, that person will stay there, watch more. And oftentimes, it takes hours for the person standing there until Ono is satisfied with the answer. So, lean manufacturing is all about learn by doing. So we're gonna exercise. Okay, imagine around your chair, there is a chalk circle. And I need your full attention for the next couple minutes to do this exercise on observation. I will play a video. This first. And on the video, you're gonna see people are passing balls. I want you to count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. So again, the task you have is to watch, really pay attention, observing how many times the player wearing white passed the ball. And I want to get all the right answers from this room.
No sound.
No sound. You know the task, right?
Count the white. There is a correct answer.
So everybody got the right answer? How many times? Just give me one. I know it's over 10. So over 10, how many? 14. Okay. 13. I heard 13, 14, 12. So which one is right? 14 is the right answer. Okay, I have more questions for you. So feel good about it, you get 14. Did you see umbrella? How many people see umbrella? Some. How many people see a parrot? Some. How many people see the color changed on the curtain? One. So let's watch again. I want you to catch all those. So you see all those changed, right? Last time you may not notice it when you're counting the numbers. So we practice. Let's try the third time. This time I want you to count the number again. See if you can count the numbers to 14. If those ones to count 12, 15, see if we count right. Let's try. All right, so this time you count number 14. Did you see the pirate? Yes, the gorilla? And the curtain changes the color, right? You see them all. So the takeaway from this exercise, first, when you're really focused observing one thing, you may miss something else. That time, a coach will help you to let you know what you're missing. So second takeaway is observation takes practice. So you practice twice, and third times, you see them all, right? You count and see them all. And third thing is about observation takes time. This is a very, very simple example, just passing balls, right? I know we repeat it, and it takes us 3 times with a coach to see it all. And show 4 is much more complex. So it takes time to be out there.
Hey, Sherry mentioned, and I mentioned it earlier, that observations are lengthy processes. How many people go out and observe 10 cycles of a process, 4 or 8 hours of an observation, do that a week? Sherry spends half of her time one-on-one as a coach, helping our second level supervisors see. And I do this myself. I told you every Tuesday I do this. I go, and I want to pass out sidewalk chalk, but we don't do that. I go and I'll just stand at the exit of a process. I'll stand on our casting furnace side and just watch a particular process. If you're a supervisor, you're a leader, you're an individual contributor, and you walk from one meeting to the next and kind of do this, that's not an observation. If you stand there and watch for 1 minute, that's not an observation. 4 hours. That's the lowest. It should be 10, but 4, because 10 gets you a couple shift changes if you're on the 8-hour schedule. Shift change is a real cool thing to watch. If you want to find some gold, watch the last 45 minutes of the shift and the 45 minutes of the next shift. If you want to see some gold, okay? Okay, bring back debate. I talked about this at the very beginning. Ken Hall's going to give me an example of this. But hey, success determined by people. I told you that earlier, or asked you to consider that earlier. Diversity. Diversity is really, common tool that people in organizations are using to be more innovative. Okay, let's hire diverse thought, diverse people, different backgrounds, different races, different sexes, all that stuff, bring it to the table. Is that any good if we don't debate it? If those issues aren't getting out on the table and being argued, what's it matter? So do we have too many meetings? Everybody raise their hand. We got too many meetings? Yeah. I'd ask you to consider, is it that we have too many meetings or your meetings aren't productive? We're sitting in a staff meeting and everybody's justifying their jobs and what they did last week. I don't care. They've heard me say this. That's kind of my motto. I simply don't care. Get funny. I don't care. I trust everybody at that table and everybody at the table over here to do your job and that you worked your butt off last week. I trust you to do that. Don't sit in a staff meeting and tell me what you did last week. Bring up a topic that you need the people in the room to help you make a better decision. We need to debate this. I got this idea. What do you think about it? It's okay to pass. I said that in here somewhere, right? Okay to pass. You know, in my staff meeting, about a third of the people just pass. Pass, and I get a big smile on my face. We've got to manufacture time to debate. Debate an issue, to argue. Trust each other, okay? Let's see, you know, use buy wins. Have you ever heard the term buy wins? If somebody says, hey, you know, I need you to have this report. Get this report for me. Versus, I need this report by Friday, then it's a contract then, right? Candor, debate issues, not people. Cheating. My staff's experienced this a couple times, right? How many times do you sit in a meeting? I'm impressed here. How many times do you sit in a meeting and 2/3 of the people have their laptop open, reading email, doing text messages, right? You're cheating the system. You're cheating me. I'll take that personal. I'm trying to make decisions for the plant, and we're debating something. I bring an issue up, and you're half paying attention. Don't give me this multitasking crap. Most people, the vast majority of people don't multitask. They cycle between topics very fast in their mind, and they're doing a pretty poor job at both. Okay? You put the laptops down, put the cell phones down. Now, occasionally you'll see me look at a text, you know, that something comes in that I have to deal with, but 98% of the time I'm fully engaged in that. What does that do? Builds trust in the organization. Builds trust. You know, one of the things I was just talking about my staff the other day is I said, you know, what about not being on cell phones or computers 5 minutes before the meeting and 5 minutes after? Why is that important? Because then we connect. We get to the meeting a couple minutes early. I ask you about your family. Ask her what's going on, what's troubling you. Did you watch curling in the Olympics? You know, you develop a relationship with each other. Okay? We got to bring this back. The trust level needs to be high amongst your leadership team, where you can throw out something, you know, in pack ship, and somebody from the hot mill says, I don't think that's right. And they're not attacking the person. They're giving a different viewpoint to help us make better decisions. How many of your meetings are just, you know, kind and gentle and nice versus argument, debate for the goal, the difference in an argument and debate, you know?
So I remember there's a myth that the leader has to be the decider. So I first became a leader. We needed to make some people move. So they were across the entire department. Spent a lot of time pouring over, got input one-on-one from a lot of folks. And then I made this great announcement. Here you go. Here's the new changes. The team unified around the belief that that was the worst decision ever, right? It really wasn't leadership. A more recent example, now that we've created an environment of trust, involved more. So how do you create an environment of trust? First of all, you must demonstrate it as a leader. If you do not have trust, how are you going to have open debate, right? Who's going to engage in a debate with their boss if they're fearful that there's repercussions? An example we recently had on our lead team, we were debating engineering and how we were going to do reward and recognition. Now imagine you're sitting in a lead team, 75% are engineers. Your boss is an engineer who has 4 children that are engineers, and you have a different view. How comfortable would you be in expressing a different opinion? We have the environment where that's okay to do that. Back to my lead team. A more recent example of where we needed to make people moves, I encouraged the team to work it. I was simply there as a facilitator. I took the input and just let the conversation transpire. It got heated a couple places where there was disagreement and maybe we should do it another way. But at the end, the conversation resulted in a solution that was good for all, and all could really own the results moving forward. Much better was not even on my horizon as a potential solution when I began the discussion. Now, I won't lie. Debate isn't easy for everyone. Some cultures, some personalities really struggle with, I don't want to say anything that might offend, or I don't want to be seen as a disagreeable one. But you have to really keep building that. It can't always be the leader that takes an alternate view. If it's always the leader that's challenging the idea, there's a different word for that. What is it? Bully, right? You don't want to be that kind of leader. You want to have some people on your team, plant them, keep instilling in them, encourage them, and recognize when they do step forward with that alternate view. But to those that struggle with it, keep encouraging them too. I had one of my members came to me and he said, hey, you know, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. In that last discussion, I got pretty animated, and I was really passionate about that, and I just wanted to apologize. And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, you should be apologizing for not doing that more. Because of your involvement, because of the passion that you brought, we advanced a solution to a place it would not otherwise have gotten. So those are just a couple of examples that I wanted to share.
This one here, for, you know, the reflection is whether you're first, second, third level supervisors. Watch one of your meetings. Are we just reporting out on stuff where I go to this meeting where every Tuesday we spend 45 minutes there, everybody justifies their jobs, and you leave? When all that information, that can come out in a daily email, and I can look at it, and I can look at it in 2 minutes, and I wasted 45 minutes of my time that I could have gotten 5 minutes. Is that your meeting? Or do you, hey, have a 5-minute meeting? Don't have a meeting at all. Bring back the debate. What do we need to discuss? What are the factors in discussing whether we move the hot mill outage from this Thursday to next Monday? How does that impact upstream, downstream? Here's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? Bring back the debate. It's a problem in our culture because we don't want to upset anybody. Our trust level is down because we don't interact anymore. We're on our computers. We're texting. We're texting right up into the meeting. You got to get that trust level where you recognize that the person that disagrees with you brings up a counterpoint. They're trying to help the organization move forward. And that starts with trust. How do you build trust? One experience at a time. I do love the observation piece. It is something, the problem with observation is people think they're doing it. They think they're doing it. That's the obstacle you got to get past. I observe them on the floor all the time. Well, they're not. Go ahead.
So I actually have a question. I am a supervisor, like a shift supervisor. How can you observe when your job is to help them? Like, I'm constantly getting people to say my name. Like, that I am the go-to. So how do you do that?
Yeah, well, what company you work for?
Infinity.
Every solution is going to be different, okay? But as a team, can you meet with your supervisor and talk about, hey, I went to this presentation yesterday and they were talking about observing and seeing waste. How, we need to do this. I think there's an opportunity. Can somebody fill in for my job for the next 2 days while we do this? So that's one way. I'm sure when you go on vacation, somebody fills in for you. Well, they can fill in for you on vacation, or maybe they don't. I don't know. But how do you carve out time? It can be when you're a frontline, first level supervisor. It's hard. You get, hey, I want to stand here and do a 4-hour observation, and that lasts about 30 seconds. I've worn a radio for 4 years. I know exactly what you're going through. But you have to. How do you craft that with your team? It says, guys, we're missing this. We're so busy on the hamster wheel, but we don't see what's going on. Okay? So my advice, and this is an Alcoa solution, and you don't have, you're not Alcoa, is how do I free you up? Can somebody work at 12 tomorrow to allow you to have 4 hours to observe? And then you return that favor next week. How do you change your system to do that? All right?
Hey Joe, I have an add-on to that. If you can't be the person who's doing the observation,
if you aren't lucky enough to be able to be freed up, that's the best solution, right? for you to do the observation yourself because you're out there. But what we have had to do in those cases, sometimes if we can't free the person up, just by you bringing up that you think it's important to someone, if you can get anybody else that you could have that would either be trained in, what we do is Sherry's trained in observation, and we're trying to train more people through Alcoa University. So we're going to be requesting other people to come out and observe our shifts. We're going to make experts on observation, and while I'm doing my normal job with the radio and I'm running the crew, and I don't have time to carve out 4 hours, I'll have somebody standing there for me, trying to give me advice. So that's the second best option.
Yeah, it's not as good as you learning yourself.
Right.
And here's another hard part about observation. You know, I said people think they're doing it, they're not. You're in that rat race and you're not stopping and seeing things. Is under the guidance of a coach. You know, my lean journey, my first lean training was in 1996. You know, a long time ago. and I had a personal I had a person assigned to my leadership journey. Going out and just, it's okay to go out and observe 4 hours by yourself, but if you don't know the 7 forms of waste, you're not looking at connections, you're not looking at the content, sequence, and timing of work, you're not trained to see it. Remember Sherry's video? One of the challenges I had from the executive board and the committee was, how can we train people today? Well, it's hard to give people a 4-hour on the floor training event, so that's why Sherry had that video. It's, you know, how many times do we go out on the shop floor and see what we expect to see? You know, it's called the confirmation bias, right? Confirmation. You go out there and you find evidence that confirms what you already thought. But you don't see the gorilla, you don't see the pirate, you don't see the screen change color. Guidance of the coach, don't step over that step. And so, you know, my encouragement is, hey, as a team, let's sit down and say, hey, I want to, you know, listen to this thing on observation. I really think we're missing it here. And, you know, Joe talked about 2 points, you know, long observations, you know, target shift change if you want to find some instant gold. But under the guidance of a coach, you know, I don't know what position your company is in. Can you hire consultants? You know, it's not hard to find a lean consultant that can train on observation. So that's my advice. Next, Corey.
Hey.
Yeah, remember your name.
So from the sales stand side, or stand of this, so observation and time span of control. So for us to go into a customer to help them observe, say a breakdown or whatever they may be, to help them with their process, we need to be looking at the time span also, because they may just be looking at the waste or whatever that is. It's the sales role or the customer service side of it to also be put into that time span side to help maybe with a preventative maintenance plan or whatever that may be. So observation, I believe, is pretty important because it's an all-around help or all-around fix, and it enforces communication.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I'd love to give, you know, maintenance examples. Is, you know, you got to look at the life cycle cost. I don't know what you're selling, Corey, but, you know, say it's motors. You know, you look at the life cycle cost of that motor. You know, how they maintain it, how you use predictive technology, how you using it. You taxing it. You know, 120% of its rated capacity. What's the environment in it? You know, are we changing the filters? Are we lubricating it? All those kind of things. You learn those. Well, yeah, we're lubricating. It says right here on this sheet of paper that we completed the lubrication on all these pieces of equipment. Well, let's go to the field verification study, you know, and you go out and I remember a guy, a great friend of mine, his name is Levi, and I would randomly pick 2 maintenance tasks that were done last week and try to prove him guilty of conducting a PM through the physical evidence. He didn't enjoy it as near as much as I did. But so if you know, you go out there and say, okay, let's lubricate this system out here. Okay, it doesn't say there's 12 lube points, so let's go out, you know, count the lube points and see if it's did they get them all, or they only get the ones that were convenient? Did they put the right grease in there? You know, how much grease did they put in? Did it, you know, have you ever heard of Moore's law of grease? There's a Moore's law. Moore's better.
I'm gonna call this fresh eyes. We've got a couple areas in the operations side that really need a strong view and a lot of observation. And not necessarily, I don't believe, necessarily from someone or everyone in the plant. Whether it's bringing people from Produce TAP program, whatever that might be. But basically, seeing, well, the feedback is, we've been doing this way for 20 years, that's what the industry does, or how we do it that way. Well, I want a fresh set of eyes on it because it's not working for us now. From a labor standpoint, a number of the reasons. So any suggestions how you get fresh eyes, or get people to open up to have fresh eyes, someone that knows nothing about that process, or an outside resource that you can bring in and say, hey, let's get some other people in it, not just the folks internally who know.
Yeah, I mean, immediately some things, you can hire a consultant. I mean, you mentioned Purdue TAP. I think that, that's going to be a little bit in the next section around some formalized training. Mike, I know you're at a smaller 50-person, 70-person operation. Getting people that aren't on that process to observe it. Somebody that's on process C, watch process A. We try to do that. Smaller companies are a little more difficult, so my advice would be some consultants or people from the office even. You can sit there and you can train them on it's not up there, the Tim Wood 7 forms of waste. Here's what you're looking for. We're looking for the content of the work, the sequence of the work. I want you to look for these 7 forms of waste over 4 hours. Somebody out of the office, maybe one of your salespeople, grab Corey. Somebody that is focused. It actually can be a lot better. Somebody that does the work. I know when I'm observing maintenance people and efficiency of our craft people, if you'll get hooked into the work they're doing, because mechanical engineering back, here's what they're doing, here's what they're doing. No, my job is to look at the efficiency of the work. How many people are turning wrenches? How many times do you go down the highway and there's all these cones out there on the road, orange cones, and you count the number of people working. I don't know, does everybody do that? You sit there and you're driving 10 miles an hour, you're driving up 69, you hit, what's that town? Martinsville? You hit Martinsville and you go, it's going 30 miles an hour. And then you see like 40 people up there, there's like 2 working, But if you're in the construction business, you'll say, well, here's what this person's doing, here's what they're supposed to be doing. They're getting ready to do that. They're getting ready, hey, I'm just documenting waste, So having somebody that's from the outside is good. So consider some of your office people, Mike, some of your sales people. I do this. I observe myself. I've got plenty of other things to do. So, Jimmy's not in the room, is he? But, hey, tell Jimmy it's his job to do it. Seriously, everybody's job. To me, that's why, one of the reasons I'm doing it, I love doing it, is observing. But I'm also modeling it. If I got time to do it in my job, you got time to do it in your job. All right?
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Over here.
All right, thanks.
I kind of want to add on. I love that fresh eyes. That doesn't mean different eyes. That just means you can see things differently. So an example, I've been in my current role for 7 years. I think I know the processes pretty darn well. And so I'm walking past them daily. But yet, when we started the journey of really intense observation, spending that extra time to see it through its full cycle, there were things jumping out at me that I was embarrassed to admit, right? But I'd seen it, but not really seen it. So it's only once you take the time to invest in that, even though you're very familiar with the processes, you're very familiar with what you believe they should do, it's with that power of observation and the intent that's what you're there for. And I bet some things will jump out at you.
And Mike, it's awful easy, group, to jump into, Joe said I'm supposed to observe for 4 hours. You gotta know what you're looking for, you gotta be trained under the guidance of a coach. All right? And I'm not trying to say, we should hire a consultant, but that's one thing to do. Try it as an experiment. Chair?
Yeah, I add 2 points. One is, one time I'm working with a VP of a business unit. He was really worried about the results. So I took him to the shop floor. I said, we just stand here and see. And he said, wow, I see a lot of opportunity. I feel more confident. So sometimes, it's very difficult convincing people. Just go out, go see, and then think about what are the challenges you have in your mind, and see what are the opportunities on the floor. I have done so many observations myself. Never once I did not find opportunities, and most of them are low-hanging fruit opportunities.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that, Sherry, that reminded me of is this isn't just for manufacturing on the shop floor. We have a lot of planners in our operation, and I'm specifically talking about maintenance planning, not production planning, but maintenance planning. Some jobs weren't getting planned right, so we said, hey, let's do a week in the life of WILO of the planners. And the planners, we had them fill out a survey at the beginning that says, where do you spend your time? I spend 50% of my time looking for parts. 50% of my time looking for parts. This is just an example. We did a week in the life study. It was over 4 weeks, 4 different areas. And no planner during this unique special time spent more than 5% of their time looking for parts. Be careful of surveys, be careful of data. Observing it, they were frustrated. It was very frustrating when you're looking for parts, but it was actually a very low percentage of their time they were looking for parts. So where was planners spending their time? That's a whole nother topic. But observing, just, hey, this person's a planner, okay, hey, I'm gonna follow you around for 3 days. And my job is I'm not trying to eliminate your job. I'm trying to see where you spend your time, where your waste is, where your frustration is, how you're communicating, where your information comes from, how good is it? I'm trying to look for those things, and it's amazing what you find through observation. We were making decisions based on parts because the planners were spending 50% of the time looking for them. Less than 5.
My name is David Cook from Brake Supply, right here.
I don't see you. Okay.
But one of the ideas that came to my mind when you were talking about fresh ideas or fresh eyes really comes with us when we bring customers through our shop, through our workshop. And we're open to hearing our customers' opinions and thoughts on what they see when they come to our shop. A lot of our customers are very safety focused, safety conscious, efficiency focused as well. And they come back, and after we get done with our tours, they come to our conference room and we have a meeting, and we have an open discussion about things that they saw during their shop tour. And that can bring a whole new perspective to what you're doing.
Yeah, very good.
Hi everybody, I'm Mallory Sherfield. I'm with Ivy Tech Workforce Alignment. So I could just sing your praises out loud when you're up here evangelizing about nudging, because that's what I'm in the business of doing, is through this observation, through this prioritizing, what can you get an A on, a B on, a C on, you're going to be able to identify the future leaders in your team and the emerging leaders. Observation is not just about identifying inefficiencies or seeing where your failures are, where your waste is. It's also about seeing your opportunities, like Sherry said. So that's where we come in to help you say, okay, how do you get this emerging leader to be an active leader in a couple of years and then to be the top leader decades from now? It really made me cringe when you talked about the thousands of years of tribal knowledge that are just, forgone with the wind with Alcoa. And unfortunately, that's something that I think everybody in this room can probably identify with. And that's a problem that we can help you solve. We can get those guys in early or gals in early to build a training program based around the needs that you see. And I think that's an important piece for everybody to think about when they're out there doing those observations,
My team's heard me say this a bunch of times. I had some training. I've been blessed with Alcoa. I've had years of training of being a leader. I went through a 2-year program, 2 years, 12 weeks each one of those years of leadership training. And one of the training sessions I went to was, on how do you change a culture? How do you change a character? That's a big problem. How do I change it? One experience at a time. Same. How do you build trust? One experience at a time. You can't just go out there and say, culture change. But you can create one event. You can create one event in a meeting. You can say, hey guys, how about everybody puts their laptops down, their cell phones down, and we debate this issue and make a better decision. You just created one experience. I need help making good decisions. Left alone, I make bad ones. That was really funny. Seriously, we have to be competitive. We're a global company. We got challenges. You have challenges. You got to make the best decisions and have the best leaders. How can you create an experience that advances that tomorrow? Tomorrow. Okay? I started off by saying, hey, there's a lot of great motivational speakers out there. I love listening to them. If you got to, if there's a topic, one gentleman was talking to me about, Christian values in sales. I said, type in Christian values in sales on YouTube and see what comes up. There's some great people that are, will get you pumped and may give you a nugget or two, okay? What we were trying to do today, the exercise today was, hey, let's get this all the way down to the floor level. All the way down to something that you can turn this feel-good stuff about leadership. Everybody wants to be a leader. Turn it into real action. Real things that move the culture one experience at a time, okay? That's our challenge as leaders, one experience at a time. I'd like for you to remember that. And I threw out a lot of other words to you that I'd like, challenge you to start using. Hey, is it okay if I get a C on that? Nudging, time span of control, right? Start using the language, okay? Shortens the conversation. What experience can you create tomorrow?